rely on marketing more than ever to connect with audiences. One podcast aims to make sense of it all. This is Movies and Marketing.
Next Saturday night, we're sending you back to the future.
Go ahead, make my day.
How about you, you crazy Dutch bastard? What we've got here is failure to communicate.
Take a look around. You're at the threshold of hell.
But we might as well have a good time.
I am an FBI agent.
All right.
Dead Reckoning. When two rivals navigate mermaids, Spider-Verses, and Transformers to predict the biggest box office hits of the summer movie season and meet their dial of destiny.
Destiny. How do you like that? I just crammed it all in.
I love that.
It is a dead reckoning.
Dead Reckoning.
Part 1.
Part 2 will be
The follow-up.
I like that. The 2023 summer movie draft.
It's here. The day I've waited for all year. Every day I wake up and I carve, I scratch a mark into the wall. One day closer.
Into your cave wall. Yeah, I like that.
I have a really long beard, after the end of last year, my demise. Every day now I just wake up. I'm counting the days till I get my revenge.
I don't know why this is what I pictured when you said that, but I was picturing Tom Hanks in Castaway with a giant spear spearing fish.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's been like. So I'm happy to get away from that. Happy to get off that island, only to be defeated and return to that island potentially.
This is what I think about the draft. Doesn't matter how many times you win or lose. When it comes around, it fills you with hope for the future. It's kind of like playing the lottery,
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's just a fun event. At the time you do it, anything is possible.
Yeah.
And then, as the summer goes on, the misery creeps in. But for this one day, it just all feels so good. So in case you haven't grasped it quite yet, on today's episode, we're talking about summer movies. Why are we talking about summer movies, Patrick? Why are we doing it?
Well, we started this way back in 2016, which seems like ages ago.
Yeah.
For you, our listeners, this might be your first summer movie draft you're experiencing. And let me just tell you, this is a competition that Shad and I have had. It really didn't start off as a competition. It was more of just a fun, happy-go-lucky couple guys talking about what movies they thought would do well during the summer. And now it's turned into a battle royale of sorts.
Yeah, I will kill you. I will claw over you. I will do anything to win.
Well, you said it. It's a dead reckoning.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Part 1.
Part 1.
Of course.
In 2019, we moved to a draft format. When we started off, we were just picking which ones we thought would perform well. And we both could have the same movies on our list, which was fun. But it wasn't super challenging because if we both had the same movies, sometimes we were really pretty close.
It's more of a competition in the draft style.
Yeah. So rather than just trying to pick the top 5 movies straight up, we have a draft format where we pick 7 movies each, and neither one of us can pick the same movie. So where are we at currently, Shad, with the standings?
Currently, it's becoming balanced. There was a while where it was pretty balanced. Not so much anymore. Currently, series is at 2-4. You've got the 4, I've got the 2, and I haven't won in a while. Yeah. 2016 and 2018, I got it. You took it in 2017, 2019, 21 and 22. So you're on a hot streak. Now, I will say, there was no challenge in 2020. Summer movie season was canceled by COVID. There wasn't enough we could really have a draft. You didn't even know if movies were coming out, when they were coming out.
Yeah.
And even since then, a whole lot of people are even questioning 2021, 2022. Do those drafts even count? I know a lot of experts have weighed in and said they probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
You should probably take those numbers away. A lot of prominent professors in the field have said those don't even really count. So in many ways, it's still 2-2, if you want to look at it that way.
I would love the names of these prominent professors.
They don't want to get in the mix. They don't want to start a fight. it's academic in a lot of ways. So they're just going to kind of stay anonymous, but there's a lot of them is all you need to know.
Well, I know our listeners can't see us while you're listening to the podcast, but whenever you talk about the standings, you can't see my face, but there's a giant grin on it, mainly because we both know.
I mean, anyone can have, a run of luck. It happens. The Giants beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl. They weren't the best team, but it happens.
Yeah, I just chalk it up as sheer luck on my side because I'm not a movie expert. You'll see that in my picks. I mean, I made some gigantic mistakes. I do pride myself in learning from my mistakes. For example, I've brought this up in the past. There was a year where I didn't pick kids' movies, which bit me pretty hard that year. And obviously I've learned a lot because I'm now king of the castle.
I mean, I never learn from my mistakes. So that's why I just like to repeat them over and over, year in and year out, and just choose nice, juicy bombs. I enjoy a good bomb. Yeah. So we'll see which ones I could pick this year. Let's go through, before we get into the actual draft, let's go over the rules of the game, because we have some, pretty unique rules that you might be like, well, why aren't they picking this movie? So let's get into the rules, Patrick. What is the number one rule of the draft? The timeline.
So the timeline is critical. A lot of people ask us, or have asked us in the past, what movies are eligible. So any movie released in the US theaters from Memorial Day weekend through Labor Day weekend is eligible. Every year it's slightly different dates, but this year it's May 26th through September 4th. And only theatrical releases. So we have had, in the case of past picks, things that have moved. COVID did this to us, moved from theatrical releases to streaming releases. And we've taken that into account in past picks. But
yeah, hopefully that doesn't happen to anybody. Hopefully we don't have to deal with that. Hopefully we're past that. Notable, though, with that timeline, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, you're not going to see that movie. That's already out as we're recording that. Yeah. It's not summer, people. It's the beginning of May. It's not summer.
Yeah.
Fast X also comes out in May, so you're not going to see that movie. You're not going to hear about that one. Ineligible.
Which cuts a lot of those big ones, but that's the rules we play by, right?
It's the game. So as you mentioned, Patrick, 7 movies each on each team. We'll go back and forth with our picks, but a little wrinkle this year. Last year's winner, which is you, gets to make a choice at the beginning. You get to choose between taking the first pick in the draft or getting consecutive picks 2 and 3. So you can go 1 and then your next pick will be 4, or you can pick 2 and 3 in a row. So kind of a strategic choice you need to make right at the beginning of the draft. From there, after those beginning picks, things will normalize. We'll just kind of go back and forth. Then we also have 2 bonuses. Some bonus rewards we're going to be giving out here. Some kind of strategic plays we can make within the draft. Potentially, they could also just be luck. We'll see how they kind of play out. One, we're calling the minimizer maximizer. And this is a reward for the lowest grossing movie on either of our lists. So one person's going to get this bonus. So how does this come into play strategically? Well, it's a chance to pick, one of those kind of lower tier movies, not essentially a blockbuster if you want to. Or it could also just end up being a bomb, the bomb of the list. You're going to get a bonus for that. Somebody is. The person who has the lowest grossing movie is going to get 10 times what that movie grosses. So it could be interesting how that one plays out. The next reward we have, we call the Overachiever Optimizer, a bonus for the movie that, relative to where it is drafted, so within the draft order, we have 14 draft picks between the two of us. Where it finishes in the results is going to get a bonus for the one that moves up. If it's drafted number 14 and it ends up finishing number 8, that could be the movie that had the biggest jump between its draft position and its finishing position. So that movie is also going to get a bonus. And it's going to get $15 million for each space it moves up. So 2 bonuses out there, which could mean extra money in the bank for one of us.
Those are exciting. And, you say wrinkle. I think these are ways we every year try to keep it kind of exciting. It's one of the reasons why we moved to draft format. And each year we've introduced something that makes it kind of interesting for us. And this year, we really wanted to start to build a better opportunity for the people who have not done so well in the past. And so
Who are those people?
I think this does that. I think this does that. I think it opens it up to being like a little bit more unpredictable. We love unpredictable, you know what I mean? Because like you said, when you're going through the summer and you're watching your picks perform in the theaters, there comes a point where there's no return. And I think this helps you still have hope, even in the later months, when what's happening, because the overachiever optimizer might push you over the threshold and maybe even win it.
Yeah, I like that. You want these kind of wild cards that keep the game going. You want to keep things interesting, and hopefully these things do it. Like you said, interesting, unpredictable. You're not sure exactly what's going to happen here. Who knows how things will turn out? And of course, our final rule, smack talk, getting in your opponent's head, always encouraged.
Always encouraged.
Seeing if you could worm in there and try to make them second guess something, or, throw them off a little bit in the draft. We always enjoy that a little bit.
Yeah. What game is not complete without a little smack talk?
Yeah. Toy with your opponent. Smash them around like the Hulk in Avengers, when he kind of grabs Loki and throws him back and forth.
Yeah.
Now it's time to dive in. And with that, you have a big choice to make, which I'm sure you've been contemplating night and day for a long time. Yeah.
Being the winner so many times and giving myself the ability to pick first.
It's boring, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's just not fair. There's a little tiny voice in my head that says, if you didn't have the first pick, if you didn't have the first round draft pick, could you still defeat Shad? And would that give you even better bragging rights?
It sounds like cockiness. Like, could I do this with an arm tied behind my back situation?
Because it's not even a part of strategy. It's just more of like, could I? So I think with that, I'm going to give you the first round draft pick, and I'm going to take number 2 and number 3.
All right.
Did you expect that?
Honestly, I had no idea what you were going to do here. I thought you might have passed it on. And I think if I were in your position, given that this year, I don't think there is a clear cut number 1, I probably would have passed it on. But I'll take it. I'll grab it. I know what I want. I'll just say this. Dun, 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 dun.
I've seen things I can't explain. And I've come to believe it's not so much what you believe. It's how hard you believe it.
Give me the dial of destiny. I'm going to take it. I'm going to take old Indiana Jones in the number 1 slot. I think it'll get the old crowd. I think it'll get the young crowd. I think it can play to all audiences. And I hope it's better than the Crystal Skull.
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull in 2008 did $317 million. And this is what's so fascinating to me. Raiders of the Lost Ark in 1981 did $248 million domestic.
Yeah.
That's insane.
That is insane, especially you adjust that for inflation.
That movie has the potential.
I hope. So I'm going to take Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny with the number 1 pick.
That's not what I thought you were going to go with.
No?
No, I didn't. But I think it's a good pick. That movie has the potential. It's definitely a good pick.
Well, that leaves you open.
So my number 1 is going to be The Little Mermaid live action.
You broke the rules. You went to the above world.
A man was drowning. I had to save him.
This obsession with humans has to stop.
I just want to know more about them.
Going Little Merm.
And I'll tell you why. The Lion King from 2019 made $543 million domestic.
I believe I won it for you that year. That was the year I picked Toy Story 4. You had The Lion King. It was kind of like those are the big family movies. And The Lion King had like 100 million more. They both made a buttload of money. And Lion King made a lot more.
Yeah. I mean, I know people want to see it. People are going crazy over this movie for some reason. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Maybe it'll be my Maverick of the year.
It has the best release day, which is Memorial Day weekend. People tend to get excited for that first movie of the summer. I think they have a good track record with these live action versions. In general, I think these movies did pretty well and people are into them. So you're up on your number 3 now.
This is where I'm going to get an advantage, Shad.
Okay.
I believe this is my advantage opportunity right here.
Yeah, I think it is.
My number 2 pick is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Oh, okay.
We are supposed to be the good guys.
We are.
Was that on your list?
It's on my list. It was not what I was expecting you to pick here.
Okay. And I'll tell you why. I think this movie is going to do great. The last movie, Into the Spider-Verse, in 2018 did 190 million. People loved that movie. It was a surprise hit. Across the Spider-Verse, you have the fan base. People loved the first one. And I think they're going to come out to see the second one. I think there's going to be a lot of that fandom coming out to see it.
Yeah, this was a big one. I really liked the first Spider-Verse a lot. I think a lot of people caught up with this on Netflix too. A lot of people think it's the best Spider-Man movie. I don't know if it's my favorite of the Spider-Man movies, but I like it a lot. I'm like really looking forward to seeing the second one. I think my kids are too. It's a good pick. I didn't have it quite that high. I don't know how much bigger it's going to go beyond like with the first one, which was kind of a surprise hit. I had a couple movies above it, but it was one I wanted to have on my list. It's going to make some money.
Already my movies are shaking out to be very different than I have picked in the past because I have The Little Mermaid and another animated movie, right? Whereas you have the more action Indiana Jones. Makes me a little sad I don't have Indiana Jones on my list, but you know.
Yeah. It's always a pull between what you want and what, I always look at my list at the end and there's been some years where I'm like, I don't necessarily like all these movies, you know what I mean? But you're trying to use your brain versus your heart. The number 4 pick, this is what I thought you were going to pick here. I have some questions about it. Will it be good? But I feel like something's happening. I feel like people are kind of into it. It's got a June release date. And that movie, it's The Flash.
Tell me something. You can go anywhere. Another timeline. Another universe. So why do you want to stay and fight to save this one?
Because this is the world where my mom lives. I'm not going to lose her again.
Want some help?
Oh. You are?
Yeah. I'm Batman.
I'm going with The Flash.
That is so surprising that you're picking that. I almost can't even believe it.
I can't even believe it either. It's kind of a wild card. Is it going to be good? For the older audience, there's the Keaton Batman. It has this kind of star who seems like a little bit of a train wreck, which gives me a question, but I'm like surprised to hear the number of people who are like kind of interested in this movie.
I'm super surprised, mainly because you have a hard time picking the superhero movies. Let me tell you something that you may not know and might surprise you, Shad. Flash was not even on my list.
Really? Not at all?
Not at all.
You think it's going to bomb?
I have loved the trailers. I want to see this movie. I think Michael Keaton in it is going to be amazing. I can't wait to see that. But there is a part of me this year is that I think people are a little burned out on superhero movies. It's like Transformers, and they keep doing worse and worse and worse at the box office. That's why the first one did $320 million. And by the last one, number 6, $127 million. And so I don't know. I mean, I think it's going to do really well. I'm not denying that. You're going to have a lot of the nostalgia people too, like us, going to see it for Keaton, even if they don't know who the Flash is.
I'm shocked to hear it wasn't even on your radar. Makes me say, wish I would have picked it later. I didn't even know you weren't even thinking about it. I think superhero fatigue is a real thing. I don't think it's going to stop this movie from making hundreds of millions of dollars, though.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I just wanted to throw that out there because I knew that you'd be like, I could have.
Yeah, I'll take it with my 7th pick.
And that would have been.
There's a bonus for you.
All right.
I have to know what you're picking here.
Do you think you know?
I think I know, but I thought I've known every time. So go ahead, throw it out there. Let me see if I actually.
I don't think you know what I'm going to pick.
Maybe I don't. I have no idea what you're doing, man. You're a wild card. You're off
I'm
the
a wild
trails.
card this year. I'm gonna do Mission Impossible. Dead Reckoning Part 1.
You're fighting to save an ideal that doesn't exist. Never did. You need to pick a side.
That's exactly what I thought you were going to pick.
The first movie in 96 did 180 million. Fallout in 2018 did 220 million. And just consistently, I think, especially as of the later ones, they've been doing about 200 million. You got Tom Cruise, just came off Maverick, and people love to watch Tom Cruise do his own stunts. So I think it's going to do really well. What do you think?
I think that's the logical next choice. I wish you wouldn't have taken it, so I could have grabbed it. A lot of people even think it's going to get the Maverick like bump and do better. I don't know if I buy that. The last movie was like the highest grossing Mission Impossible movie in the US so far. And I think that made a little over 200 million. Possibility it could go even a little bit higher. I think that's a good pick. That is the pick. That to me, the movies that have gone so far are the logical top 5. And I think after that, there's almost like a clear step down and things get a little more unclear to me.
Well, here's the thing about this. You know, we talk about this a lot. Our strategies as we're playing the game. You pick something, I pick something, you pick something, I pick something. Sometimes you do on the fly adjustments to your draft. You have to. What's interesting is you knowing what I was going to pick made me realize I know what you think I'm going to pick next. So I knew you thought I was going to pick Mission Impossible, in which case that was probably going to be your next pick, right? So the strategy of that is that wasn't really my next pick, but it's on my list. And if I'm going to grab it, I have to grab it now, right? Because if I don't, you're going to pick it next. That's the strategy of the draft.
I even would have thought, I'm like, Cruise, I thought coming off of Maverick, I even thought you might have picked that one higher. Now here is where I feel like those 5 movies were to me the clear top 5. After that, things in my book become more unpredictable. So it's all kind of taking shots here. I'm going to go with somebody I think is fairly reliable for throwing something out there that stirs some interest, even though I have a lot of questions on whether this one will actually do it given the content. I'm going to go with Oppenheimer.
We're in a race against the Nazis. And I know what it means if the Nazis have a bomb.
Christopher Nolan's movie. He puts things on IMAX screens. He creates spectacles. He gets people out there. I think there's some money to be made there that I think will be kind of an attraction.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So people come out for his movies. Other than Tenet, I was not a fan of. So Tenet's another thing that gives me like pause.
Interstellar, man, I love that movie. It's like one of my favorite movies, sci-fi movies of all time.
Really?
Oh my God, I love that movie.
I'd probably need to watch it again. I only saw it once. It's a movie I'd like to see in a movie theater.
Fortunately, this episode's not about Interstellar, so let's move on.
Yeah. All right, you're up on your number 4 pick.
Well, my next movie for number 4, I'm picking Barbie.
Since the beginning of time, since the first little girl ever existed, there have been dolls. But the dolls were always and forever baby dolls. Until...
I think this movie is going to do fantastic. I think this is going to be the breakout.
It may be. This is why I say in this stage, everything is like, I don't know. Interestingly, that and Oppenheimer come out the same day.
We'll have to see what opening weekend for each of those do.
Yeah, they're very different movies. I expect Barbie would open higher. And you're right, it could be a surprise hit and it could be like the big difference maker for you.
Maybe. We'll have to see.
My next pick, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Love it. Love it.
Stay still. Stay still.
Now. Oh! Let's try that again, but with ninja stars.
Hey, why did we pick a fruit shaped exactly like my head?
Just stop talking. You're ruining my concentration.
You're fine. Chill. He's gonna die.
You see the animation to it, very Spider-Verse-esque, and it's got Seth Rogen behind it. the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles coming back once again to make some money.
A little sad about that one because that's my next pick.
That was on your radar. Okay. Wasn't really on my radar till I was like looking at this list. I was like, oh, they're doing this again.
I think this might be your breakout hit right here. I think this is going to really help your list a ton. In my opinion, this will be like getting Spider-Verse, but at a lower rate. You might get that jump. Which one is that? The Overachiever Optimizer?
That's the jump one, the Overachiever Optimizer.
Yeah. So I could see that one doing really, really, really well.
Let's hope so. When I was asking my 9-year-old son about movies he was most excited for, this was kind of on the top of his list. It's got that recognition, people know it. So there's kind of a little bit of nostalgia to it.
Mm-hmm. All right. This is where it gets a little bit weirder.
This gets even creakier, right? This is where it's more even kind of making choices.
So I am going to go with Transformers Rise of the Beasts.
You've never faced anything like this. Let them come.
Rise of the Beasts.
I think it's necessary to pick it because I'm sure it's probably going to do money. But here's the thing about Transformers. I mentioned first one did 320 million. The last one, 127 million. They've just been going down.
Yeah.
So if this stays on the same trajectory, I'm only looking at somewhere around 100 million. Is that good? Is that not good? I think there's some other ones that have potential to maybe do better.
Yeah, I kind of had this slotted in the same position. I would have done the same thing, I think, even though begrudgingly. We should be done with Transformers, or at least let's take a decade-long break or something, at least. Get it out of our system, but I think it's good for 100 million.
Here's what I will say it has going for it. It's not a Michael Bay Transformers. So maybe it'll be better.
Yeah, maybe people be like, this is the best one.
I mean, I'll say the last couple, they were auditory nightmares.
Like a barrage of like...
It was just overstimulation almost, right?
Mm-hmm.
Visually and audibly. So it does have that benefit is it's a different director, which hopefully will make an impact. I don't know. We'll see. So what do you got now? What do you got on your list?
I'm going to go with Elemental, the Pixar movie, which looks decent.
Meet the residents of Element City. Air usually has their head in the clouds.
Oh, my new jacket!
Earth can be a little seedy.
Nothing weird going on here.
Just a little pruning. Water is always getting into something. Help! And fire, as ordered, we run a little hot.
Hoping, there's like 150 million, something to be juiced out of that movie, or it turns out to be really good and get some family buzz going. I don't know, though. It's hard to trust Pixar anymore, which is crazy. This is the brand of Wall-E, of Inside Out, of all these it was like a can't miss for like 15 years, and now it might be dead in the water, and we'll find out with Elemental for sure if it is.
I'll agree with you. It's really, really low on my alternate lists.
This is where we're getting down to 100 million or less, maybe, or you're looking for that gem in the rough, kind of. What could potentially break out of the pack, maybe?
Yeah. So we always talk about horror movies in the summer. I'm going to go with one that's maybe not on everyone's list, but does look pretty good. I did watch the trailer. I'm going to go with The Boogeyman.
When there are scary things we don't understand, our minds try to fill in the blanks. Sometimes the best thing to do is to face it.
Okay.
It's from the mind of Stephen King, as they say. I think it's going to be pretty good.
We saw the trailer for that before something in the movie theater, and it got pretty good reaction. I thought it looked pretty good. It was based on a Stephen King short story from the producers of Stranger Things. There's always a few horror movies in the summer that do it, that click. People are into that. That could be a good one.
One thing I'll tell you is, looking at the list this year, there are some where I was like, if I had 8 or 9 picks, I might pick that.
Yeah.
Which is not usually how it goes.
There was nothing. You got to mid-July and the summer was over. All right. So that being the case, my number 6, I think I'm going to go with
I think I know what you're going to pick.
Do you?
Probably.
I just feel torn here. I have like something I want to pick, and then I'm looking at some of these other movies where I'm like, what will actually make money? So let's see. What makes sense here? I know. Got to get to it.
Take your time. This is your opportunity, Shad. This is your opportunity to come back, show the world, show the listeners that you have what it takes to stay in this game.
Yeah. Get down with it.
I can see you strategizing right now, and I'm thinking to myself, talk a little smack.
Get into his brain.
God is a bullet.
It's looking pretty good.
What do you think of Asteroid City?
I want to see Asteroid City.
Yeah.
I feel like Asteroid City I have trouble with. I'm like, it's probably not going to be low enough to be the minimizer one, but also not going to be big enough to be, valuable. That's kind of where I land on it. But I want to see it. It's a Wes Anderson movie, which I typically like.
Yeah, I think it'll be entertaining. His movies are art.
Every scene's like a picture. I'm going to just go with my gut. I'm going to pick with what I want to pick and hope that it breaks out. And that is, I'm going to go with the Jennifer Lawrence raunchy comedy, No Hard Feelings.
We've just been so worried about our son.
He's going to Princeton in the fall.
Oh, I've heard of it. We tried everything to bring him out of his shell.
He doesn't come out of his room. He doesn't talk to girls, doesn't drink.
So when you say date him, do you mean date him or date him? Yes.
Date him. Date him hard.
Okay. I'll date his brains out.
I think we could be looking for something like that this summer, rather than pick one of these stupid middle of the road, more big studio movies that might flop. Audiences might be looking for like a comedy, kind of like a rom-com like this. Could end up just, kind of fizzling, but I'd rather take a shot on something like that.
All right. I feel like it's a long shot and I like it. All right. Last two. I am going to go with something that I want to pick, as well as something that I think might surprise us. It might surprise us. I'm going to go with The Equalizer 3.
9 seconds. That's what I'll give you to decide your fate.
Okay.
I think Denzel Washington, the first couple did around 100 million. It's going to be in that lower tier, but I think people want to see Denzel Washington. It's going to bump out a trilogy of that series, which I think is really important. The first two were really good. Have you ever watched the first two of those?
No, I've never actually watched those.
The first one, spectacular. Second one was pretty good. And I will say, I know he's typecast a lot of times. For whatever reason, he was just great. He was a great equalizer, and maybe he will equalize my list.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick, and those movies have done solidly. It comes out the last weekend of the summer. That's Labor Day weekend. So we'll have to see how that performs over time, but it's kind of a clear runway for a little bit too. There's like nothing else at that time. So he's got a little bit of space, and people love Denzel. So yeah. I think that's good for like at least 75 million. I think that's a good pickup at the end. Potential optimizer pick down there when you get it at the last pick.
Yeah. Since it is that last weekend, what is the rule? Do I have the run while it's in the theaters, right?
I think what we did previously, because Shang-Chi, in that year opened that weekend, I think we kept it open until like the end of September.
Okay. I couldn't remember if we just kept it while it was in the US theaters, because if it's like 4 or 5 weeks, I figured,
if it's still going, we'll keep it going. I think, the general rule was like keep it going to the end of September, because we hate to have the show like too far out for the summer. But
all right, what's number 7, dude? What are you picking?
See, this is now where strategy comes into play, because I can look at your list. I can see what I think is going to be the lowest one, which is probably, when I look at it, maybe the Boogeyman in terms of return. And I can go for the minimizer then, but I also want to maximize that minimum. Now maybe we are talking Asteroid City or something like that, or Strays, one of those movies, which I want to make sure it doesn't make too much. I can bring something like that in and try to, if I can get like a 30 million, get that kind of bonus in there. That's where strategy comes in. But again, being careful to kind of walk that line. Those are the two movies I'm bouncing around, Asteroid City or Strays. which one do I think will make the most without going over? It's like Price is Right rules.
$1.
So let's go with, in this last slot, let's take Strays. Let's put it in there.
Today is going to be the best day ever. I love sunshine, I love butterflies, but more than anything, I love Doug.
Hey! Shut the up!
Peter. That's Doug, the best owner in the world. We're playing this game called Fetch and Fetch. He drops me off really far away and drives home without me.
Let's see what it does. Is that what you thought I was going to pick?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And you didn't know what you were going to pick, and I still knew what you were going to pick.
I know. You know my mind better than me.
It's just, we've talked about in the past, our lists are a reflection of us. You know, I mean, whether or not we pick stuff we don't want to pick sometimes, which happens, we still have those movies where they're a reflection of what we want to see or what we are excited to see, you know, regardless if it's a good movie or not.
Yeah, I think you just gave me the opening for it. Like The Equalizer, if you were to pick something smaller than that, The Equalizer, I think, will make good money. If you were to pick something smaller than that, then I would have either tried to pick something smaller or tried to go on something bigger. You know, there were a few of these movies, they didn't end up going on here, but there are 3 of them in particular where I'm like, they'll probably make decent money, but I don't want to pick them. Haunted Mansion, Blue Beetle, The Meg 2.
Yeah. Well, you know, all I know is You Hurt My Feelings. No, not You Hurt My Feelings, Shad. I'm talking about the indie comedy with Julia Louis-Dreyfus that you didn't pick, About My Father, the comedy with Robert De Niro.
What about Gran Turismo?
I loved that video game when I was younger.
And it's from the director of District 9. Remember District 9?
Yeah. I'm surprised you didn't go with something that I know is near and dear to your heart in past picks, even though you don't know a lot about it. The Blumhouse horror movie.
Insidious?
No, They Listen.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking about Insidious Red Door because I thought that's like good for like 60, 75, something like that.
You know, we've talked about this in the past. Blumhouse, you know, they tend to put movies that are just
good track record
performers. Yeah.
Honestly, we could have gone 10 and had pretty interesting lists this year, which last year, there's no way we could have got 10. So what do you think? What do you think of your list? You happy with what you got? Seems like you got a lot of the things you wanted. I
feel sad I didn't get Indiana Jones because I think that's going to do really well. I have really no idea about these last picks and the strategy behind the bonuses. I'll be honest, I don't know how that will play out. So that's all just going to be sheer luck, which you'll probably, I think you're better at those kinds of things than I am. So
getting the last pick, I think I have the chance to get the minimizer one. The other one, that one, I have no idea where that one's going to go.
So you think that last pick is going to be your minimizer or maximizer?
I think so. I think Strays, when I look at these movies, I think Strays, I mean, No Hard Feelings could also not do very well. So I think Strays is kind of going to be the movie when I look at that's going to do the least, the lowest number.
I think my top 4 make me a shoe-in for the winner, potentially. The only thing that's a real unknown for me is how those are going to pit up against Indiana Jones. Because I think Indiana Jones, like you said, it does have the potential of doing so well that it knocks like 2 of my top 2 out of the list. You know what I mean? Like evens them out.
Yeah, those big 5, I just don't know. I know they're going to do well. Like Indiana Jones, The Flash, Little Mermaid, Spider-Verse, Mission Impossible. They're all going to do good. I don't know how good they're going to do. You know what I mean? I don't know if one's really going to blow up or one's going to like disappoint slightly. By disappoint, I mean making like 200 million versus, you know, the 200 versus the 400, or like if something makes 500, that's a big difference. So that could change things. Barbie, I feel like, is a real wild card. How that does could like really determine things. If that ends up being like, you know, a $250 million movie, that could really push things into your favor. So I don't know. I like, when I look at both these lists, I like them. You know what I mean? Last year, it looked so thin at the end. Now I look at this and I'm like, this is a good collection of movies here.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see as the summer wears on. We're not even at the beginning yet. So
I know. We haven't even started yet. What do you think? What's your number 1 movie? Which movie on these, of all these movies, are you most excited to see?
Probably most excited to see Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. It just was such a visually beautiful animation the first time around. So I don't know. I'm just kind of excited to see that. And I know my kids are too.
Yeah, it was so unique. That's what I'll say about the first one. It was so different from anything else that I hope this one lives up to it. I hope it's as good. And the first one definitely had that surprise factor. I'm probably in the Indiana Jones camp. You know, that's probably, and I hope Indiana Jones just can finish strong. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I hope it has the surprise factor, honestly. I hope it, like, you go into it and you're like, you leave that movie and go, I feel really good. Because I've said this before, Crystal Skull, I didn't have that feeling. I felt like, I felt a little bit of heartache more than anything. But
Crystal Skull, you also went in expecting, like, this is going to be amazing. Now I'm going in expecting, like, I don't know.
That's what I'm hoping, that it'll be that surprise hit even, you know, where like people are excited about it.
Yeah. Transformers Rise of the Beast, will you be there like opening weekend, or are you just going to like second day?
I don't know. I mean, I always have to support my list, right? But
got to.
We'll see. See what I could talk my kids into seeing.
You know, be like, you're going to see Transformers Rise of the Beast. No, Daddy, please.
Please don't take me to see that. They're like, I just now was able to sleep with my lights off.
I can't wait till we get started and then disappointment and misery sets in.
All right, well, tune into our follow-up episode in September when we crunch the numbers and see whose team takes this year's summer box office trophy.
That's it for this episode of Movies and Marketing. Until next time, let's fade to black.
I'll be back.
He's not coming back.